41 in Shields, Manchester Center, where shopping is made easy with plenty of free parking, bus lines, and warm indoor specialty shops offering festive holiday products and services at prices you'll value. Enjoy family entertainment like Tuba Christmas, or take in that holiday movie you've been waiting to see at Regal Manchester 16 Cinema. Hungry for fresh? Come visit Manchester's successful year-round farmers market every Friday and check out some of the new stores like Habit, Chipotle, Rita's of Manchester, Ascara, Foot Locker, Ellen's Clothing Incorporated, La Bella Rose, Sugar, Tropical Shades, and more. Now through Christmas Eve, come in for your family Christmas picture with Santa. It's Christmas time in the city, and the holiday destination in Fresno is the new Manchester Center at Highway 41 and Shields.
Bill O'Reilly is back on the radio.
We're gonna fight back.
And he's on Talk Radio 1680 KGED.
Let me just throw you my best shot.
The O'Reilly Update, weekday afternoons at 3:45. Talk Radio 1680 KGED.
Welcome back to Personalities in the News. I'm Steve Heffling, your host this evening. And if you want to call in, we're just talking about general constitutional things, some of the local things, the bullet train, whatever you want to talk about. It's 442-1680, Talk Radio 1680, KGED. I'm going to go back to the Constitution a little more. We have some other cases here that talk about how important the Constitution is. But yet today, it's pretty much ignored. Now, the Democrats have been talking about it quite a bit. Even California legislatures talk about it sometimes when they think it's important. But we have a case here, Norton versus Shelby County, and this is what it says. An unconstitutional act is not law. It confers no rights. It imposes no duties, affords no protection. It creates no office and is in legal contemplation as inoperative as though it had never been passed. Wow. That's pretty powerful. In my opinion, there is a lot of laws passed that should be voided. And there's another one here. Oh, I think we had that. The general rule is that the unconstitutional statute, though having the form and name of law, it is in reality no law, but is wholly void and ineffective for any purpose, since unconstitutional dates and from the time of enactment, and not merely from the date of decision. So branding. In other words, they have to conform to the Constitution or they're void. Is there a caller? Yes, you're on the air.
Hello, Steve.
Hey, this is Truman Sigler.
Yes, it is. Sitting down in my chair, relaxing, trying to get over this flu or cold or whatever it is I've got. Doing a good job. I just wanted to call into the station tonight to thank all the viewers and all the listeners to watching our show and taking the information that we're giving out. And I want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas, from me and from you and from Sue Ann and also from everybody in the station. And you're right on the topics tonight, and I'm enjoying listening to you. It's kind of strange for me to be home on a Saturday night listening to my program. But anyway, I'm enjoying it. Keep up the good work, and we'll let another guest come in or carry on with what you're talking about.
Well, thank you, Truman. That was very nice. Yes, it is. You're supposed to be here, but you're not tonight.
Well, I'm there in spirit.
Well, anyway, well, those are good thoughts, and it is a Christmas time, and wishing everybody a Merry Christmas is always a good thing.
Right. Well, I think Sue Ann's probably going to be calling in for too long. She was supposed to come down tonight, but with her mother's illness and with rain coming up or possible snow up where she lives, that was a wise decision for her to stay home. But she said she was going to call in.
Yeah, I expect her to call in. We may have some other calls.
Okay.
I hope.
Good. Go for them. I'll talk to you later.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for the call. All right. It's 442-1680, Talk Radio 1680, KGED. Feel free to call in with any comments you want. Doesn't have to be on the Constitution this time of year. You want to talk about anything, you can call in tonight. I want to continue on the Constitution, though, and the way the government works. You know, people are kind of afraid of government. Free Enterprise Society that I work with also tries to educate people on that, and a lot of people are very frightened by that, it seems like. But Justice Hugo Black once said, he says, loyalty comes from love of a good government, not fear of a bad one. Now, there are many governments in this world that people fear. And I think there's many people in this country that fear our government today. And that should not happen. It looks like we have another caller coming in. No, not yet. Thomas Jefferson also said, if a nation expects to be ignorant and free, it expects something that cannot be. Now, this goes to our education system. Okay, we have a caller. Helena.
Hi, sir. How are you?
Good.
I have a question for you regarding the impeachment process. I've heard that if Nancy Pelosi holds the articles of impeachment in the House, Trump would actually not be impeached. Is that true?
Well, the Constitution's not real clear on that particular thing, but it would seem to me any bill or anything or any act that Congress does, the House of Representatives, if they don't pass it over, anything they pass has to go to the Senate also. If they don't put it forward, it just dies. I would think that this is uncharted territory, but if she does not send it over at some point, I would think the impeachment would be negated. So I'm kind of in agreement with that, because there's no reason why she shouldn't send it over. I'm not sure what she's expecting to do. I mean, could she hang on to it until they take the Senate over again in 1 year or 10 years? I don't really get what the point of it holding it is. But thank you for your call, Helena. And there's 442-1680, Talk Radio 1680, KGED. You have lots of calls here tonight. Thomas Paine once said, the duty of a patriot is to protect his country from the government. Wow. You don't hear that much in government today. Because I'll tell you, the founders really believed that the government and elected officials would take advantage of the people at some point. And they wanted the people to have the power to correct that. Even in the Declaration of Independence, here's one of the things that says. It says, we hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, and among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Now, pursuit of happiness doesn't guarantee you happiness. It guarantees your pursuit of happiness. You know, in many countries, if you build a business or start a business or you're an entrepreneur of sorts, once you make something of yourself, the government keeps it all. They take it. You get very little of it. In this country, you were supposed to get the fruits of your labor. In other words, if you sacrifice your house and put it all on the line for a business and it's successful, you're going to keep most of that. And then to secure these rights, continuing on in the Declaration of Independence, the governments are instituted among men deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. This is very important because we have a bureaucracy building, and has been building for the last 200 years, of people that never leave Washington. And to some extent that happens in California. California used to have a part-time legislature, and I always thought that was better than what they have now. They went to a full-time legislature saying, well, this will get rid of the bribery and all the corruption. I mean, that's laughable because it was like a magnet for corruption and lobbying money. And the whole idea of lobbying in California or on the federal level is absurd to me. It is bribery. That's what it is. Anybody with half a brain can see that lobbying is a bribe. But it's not considered bribery because Congress writes the bribery laws, and lobbying is not part of it. But all we want you to do, what I encourage people to do is, to think about these things and look at things. Don't take everything on face value. When you look a little deeper, you can see that the government playing some kind of game in a lot of these things. Just like Governor Newsom in this train. I mean, first of all, I don't think they're ever going to complete the game, the tracks from Bakersfield to Madera anytime soon, if at all. I mean, I think they should be spending the money they have left, if there is any money left, in tearing down all these bridges and stuff they built and getting all that land back. I mean, they took a lot of land. They bulldozed the buildings. They got rid of the gas stations along the 99, some of the motels. It's a mess. And they don't even have all the land. So I don't know how they can even lay the tracks or take out contracts to put the tracks in. So this affects all Californians because of the large money that goes into that train. And there are better technologies out there than that. Another thing I think is important, in the Constitution itself, on Article 6, we talked about this before a little bit, but the Constitution and the laws of the United States, which shall be made in pursuance thereof. Pursuance of what? Pursuance of the Constitution. The federal government, the Congress, the Senate, up in Washington, has to be in pursuance of this Constitution. California, when it's passed its Constitution, it had to be in conformance with this Constitution before they could have statehood. And then it talks about all treaties made or shall be made under the authority of the United States shall be the supreme law of the land. And the judges in every state, so every judge in California, shall be bound by this Constitution. And anything in the Constitution or laws of any state to the contrary notwithstanding. So, any law passed that's contrary to the Constitution is not standing. It should fail. Same with laws in California. They still have to conform to the Constitution. That's part of the agreement when we bound these states together under one flag. I see we have a caller. Is that ready? Guillermo from Fresno.
Hey.
Welcome.
Hey, Steve. How are you?
Good.
Hey, so you had mentioned Gavin Newsom, and when we talk about the impeachment of President Trump, I've heard a lot of people saying, "Hey, what we should do is impeach the members of Congress or get rid of them." So my question for you is: A, how would we try to get rid of Nancy Pelosi and company? And what are your thoughts on the Gavin Newsom recall, which would kind of be our way of getting rid of Governor Newsom? So first, what are your thoughts on impeaching, getting rid of members of Congress, and your thoughts on the recall of Gavin Newsom? So basically, trying to get these bad apples out of office, just like they're trying to do with President Trump.
Well, I don't think impeachment actually works for congressmen themselves. The Congress is the body that does the impeachment. They have taken out, I know that they have removed certain legislators in the past, but it has become so partisan. I just don't see how we can get that done directly. And you can't really.
Well, what does the Constitution say about removing congressmen and women? Then what's our remedy? I mean, election time. But let's say they just got elected and they're horrible. They're rotten apples week one. How do we get rid of them?
Well, that's I don't see any remedy necessarily in the Constitution other than impeachment, and I don't know that even works for Congress, and I don't think it's ever been done. Although some congressmen have been removed for ethical problems.
Yeah, that's what I've noticed is that they normally have like an ethics complaint and they kind of just bow out before it can get any worse. But that's kind of scary not having a remedy for they have a remedy for the president, the executive branch, the judicial branch, I guess, would have some kind of remedy. But just saying that we could not get rid of it would be worse if they were like a sitting United States senator. How could we get rid of them? Right.
Well, it's a good question. I don't have a magic answer for that, but the judicial branch that you mentioned is there to protect the people from overzealous legislators in the Congress and the Senate. I don't mean by removing them from office, by taking these laws and throwing them out. Every law that is violating the Constitution is supposed to be thrown out. That does not happen very often. Now, as far as Governor Newsom's recall, I think I would support that because I don't really like Newsom. Doesn't seem to really connect with the people here in California. I mean, I thought he started out okay when on the bullet train to some extent because he said we're not going to finish it, but then he said, well, we're going to finish it from Bakersfield to Madera. What's the point? I mean, who is going to ride that thing? And
That's true. Are you allowed to recall federal officers, like congressmen and women? I don't know if I saw that on the website. If you can actually recall congressmen and women, so kind of getting them out of office that way.
I'm not sure I've ever seen that done on the federal level at this point.
On the federal level, yeah, probably not. All right, that's it. Thanks, Steve.
Well, those are good questions. The Congress is only in there 2 years, so they get elected every 2 years. Now, the president has term limits, and I can argue both sides of term limits, but if we did not have term limits on the president, we would have one president for most of our lives, I think, the way things work in today.
Yeah, interesting. All right, thanks, Steve. Keep up the good work.
All right, while I hear the music, we got a break coming up. I'm Steve Heffling with Personalities in the News. Also, go ahead and get on the phone, 442-1680, Talk Radio 1680. Give us a call. Stay tuned for more after this break.
The president is losing ground.
Hills.
Trump remains intensely focused.
Valleys.
On his political base.
Death-defying straightaways.
Totally insane.
The race is a marathon, and it happens here. 2020.
Talk Radio 1680, KGED.
Free Enterprise Society exists to educate Americans about the importance of the U.S. Constitution. This is the formula, if you will, that made this country the greatest country the world has ever seen. We are not supposed to be like the rest of the world. You can get more information at my website. We're also funded by people like you. We have a membership. We can help you with some IRS problems. We also need donations and benefactors to continue this work. So if you want to abolish the income tax, check us out. If you have questions, feel free to contact me. But anyway, thanks for listening.
Now is the time. This is Jim Franklin. You've always wanted to own a money-making business. Well, now is the time to do it, or to sell that great business that you've built. It's time to call Roger Story at Investment Commercial Specialist at 559-285-5744. He has 40 years of experience and a track record for matching great investments with great people. He has qualified buyers ready to buy now. He's a certified business opportunity appraiser. That means he can value your business or help you acquire a new business at the right price. Roger is a certified tax specialist, so he can structure transactions to your advantage. Plus, he has the best financing available. Call Roger now, 559-285-5744. I've worked with Roger for more than 20 years, and I can highly recommend him. Confidentiality is strictly observed. 559-285-5744. It pays to work with a specialist. DRE number 003-60818.
Welcome back to Personalities in the News. This is Steve Heffling, sitting in for Truman Stigler tonight, who is under the weather. We're talking about the Constitution. We're talking about the bullet train in California, Governor Newsom. Anything you want to talk about, we're at 442-1680, Talk Radio 1680, KGED. We're getting close to Christmas, so we can just throw out anything you guys want to talk about. We've got the caller coming in here, but it's not quite ready. I want to maybe go into another topic that's very important, and this is something that we actually have had some success with, and that is the right to be on a jury. A lot of people try everything they can to get off of a jury. And I understand that because it's inconvenient. You lose work. You're not paid when you're doing that work at the jury. They pay you, I don't know, $15 a day or something in most places, but it's inconvenient. But the jury is very powerful because if there's a law that is bad and you don't like it, if you're sitting on a trial with somebody being accused of that law, you can get rid of them by simply voting not guilty. And what's interesting about that is a lot of people don't realize there's 12 people in a jury box, but you don't need all 12 to say not guilty. One not guilty will set that person free. It's called a hung jury. But when a jury is ignorant, as a lot of people are today about our Constitution because the schools do not teach it, it doesn't appear to be done at all in the school systems, even in grade school now. President Clinton, I remember, once talked about how much he knew about it, and he was a professor in the university somewhere teaching the Constitution, and all the great stuff about it. And then he quoted from the Gettysburg Address to show how much he knew about the Constitution, and probably no one noticed, but I did. So this was engraved at the plaque at the Naval War College still today, and this is one of the things it says, is there's nothing more terrifying than ignorance in action. And I think that's what we have. You watch some of the people up in Washington or in California. I mean, it's obvious they don't know what they're talking about, but okay, we have some Facebook comments, which I don't see. Oh, there. Okay, let's see what got coming in. Let's talk about demo commies should be held for their treason. Also amazing how they don't hold Joe Biden accountable for his dealings in Ukraine. I think that time is coming. We can only hope. I mean, if something doesn't, if heads don't roll, and a lot of people go to jail up in Washington, we don't really have much law left in this country. So let's see. Big government is bad. Small government is good. That's a very, very true statement. But if you look at the way the founders set this government up, they set the state up to be more powerful than the federal government. The federal government had 17 powers, and that's really it. The federal government can't come in here and make the speed limit 55 miles an hour. They can't come in here and do other things that are outside those 17 powers. And for the most part, those 17 powers have nothing to do with the 50 states. The 50 states are pretty much to be left alone. And inside of a state, the county of Fresno, in my view, had more power than the state of California did. And the highest powered judicial officer we have in a county is the sheriff. He's the only constitutional officer elected by the people. He is more powerful than the county and the state and the federal government. When it comes to protecting the people here, he is it. Now, most of them don't know that. Most of them think they're just like all other law enforcement. Police officers, for example, a lot of them are well-meaning, but the police officers themselves really work for a city. They don't really work for you. They're not elected, such as the sheriff is. What else we got? And if we use that analogy, the way the founders set it up, we would have small government. For example, your house should not be broken into. Even when we had, before the Revolutionary War, the king's men would come around and harass people, but you could be in your little shack. I mean, the wind might blow through it, the rain might come through the roof, but they never, from my understanding, they never or rarely cross the threshold of that person's home. Now, in this country, they do it routinely. So, they are lacking respect for your private, personal privacy. All right, we have a caller on the line. Truman Sigler is calling back in.
Hello, are you there?
I'm here.
Yes, good. Well, I'm still here, wishing I was there, and I can't stay away from this conversation that you're having. You're doing such a good job. Getting back to the constitutionality of some things, remember, if you remember during the impeachment hearings, every Democrat said we have to protect our democracy, all democracy. Now, when the Republicans were rebutting, they not one time that I could hear mentioned the Republic. So if you remember back in the early 30s or somewhere back in there, the federal government pulled itself out from under the Constitution and made itself a corporation. So my thoughts are, which oath are these bureaucrats or government people honoring? Are they honoring the federal Constitution, which is still in force, or are they honoring a corporate charter which becomes their oath of office? And you hear even some of the Republicans now, up to my consternation, and especially the president in a tweet he made, said we have to protect our democracy. So who's being loyal to what? I think that's something that we need to discuss and kind of talk about. That's about all I have, so your callers can come in and have at it.
Well, thank you, Truman.
You bet.
We did talk about democracy and republic in the beginning of the program, and there's a big difference in those two. And you're right. I'm really tired of hearing everybody talk about our democracy.
Yeah.
But President Trump, I can give him a little leeway, But what I like about Trump is he's not supported really by anybody. Certainly not the Democrats, but the Republicans themselves are kind of don't know what to make of him, and I like that. The more people that don't like him, the more I like him. But
yeah, there's one other little issue I'd like to talk about. That's the one that your first caller brought up about if the rules of impeachment don't get put up to the Senate. I also saw online, somebody chimed in with, that said if the articles of impeachment don't get turned up to the Senate within a reasonable length of time, which they didn't specify, that the Senate could go ahead and hold the trial anyway. So that's something else to consider and think about, too. And I'm going to turn off and let your other callers come in, and I'm going to listen to you.
Well, the idea of speedy trial, before the Constitution was written, you would have charges and you'd be sitting in jail indefinitely waiting for a trial.
Right.
And today, I don't know like I said, I don't know what she thinks she's going to accomplish by holding it, other than hold that impeachment over his head, keep it on his record, because the trial is going to clear him.
Well, there was also some talk going on that if the articles don't get put up and there is no trial, that in reality he has not had full due process, so he hasn't been impeached.
Yes, we had a caller about that as well. This is uncharted territory. We've never had a legislature in Washington like this before. I mean, it was like I've been around for 3 impeachments, and the other side, the entire Congress generally got involved. In the Nixon impeachment, over 300 people impeached him out of the Congress, which is most
right.
of
Well,
them.
if you look at all the objections that the Democrats are having, they're holding them back because they don't feel they could get a fair trial. Well, look what they did to Trump. So turnabout's fair play, in my estimation.
Yes, they were very fair in the Congress, you'd have to admit. Not. All right. Well, no, those are good points. I just don't. I think it's what I like about it. I've heard that Trump's approval rating across the board is going up.
Yeah.
As much as 6 points or more. So.
That's right.
Even the Democrats are pretty tired of it. And I know some Democrats. They're generally well-meaning people, but the party has abandoned them.
Yes, it sure has.
I mean, they're going off the rails with some of these things. Open borders. I mean, that is destruction of our country, destruction of our Constitution.
Yeah, there's a whole lot of fodder there to talk about through the remainder of the time, whoever wants to get into it. But they have to really research a little bit more and find out where the federal government got the authority to pull themselves out from under the Constitution and make themselves a corporation without the vote of the states. In other words, the convention of the states to modify the Constitution. I don't see where that's been done.
Well, we talked a little bit about that. I mean, any act that is not done according to the Constitution or is in conflict with it is void.
Yes, right.
Well, you're right. The incorporation, the way they changed the government around back then was absolutely unconstitutional as far as I can tell, because they didn't you're right, they didn't change the Constitution. If they had gone through the constitutional change process, they could have done that. I mean, they could make this Constitution into a democracy if they wanted to, but they didn't, because they would have not gotten support for it.
Well, they made it into a democracy by chicanery.
Well, and that in the media. You hear this over and over again, and the schools teach the same thing.
That's right.
You believe it. I mean, if you're raised a certain way and you hear things, then you start, that's your basis. It's hard
Yeah,
to...
well, that goes back to your point early on in the show where the education system has been a major problem in this country.
They used to teach patriotism. They used to teach love of the country. Now, when I go to universities, and I've been at many universities with tables and constitutions, and many of them are very hostile toward this Constitution. They think we're like the worst country in the world. Now, it's absurd to me to think that. But they believe it. Why? Because someone's telling them that. Who would be telling them that? It has to be the professors at those universities.
Yes.
I mean, it's like some of these universities have become anti-American training camps. Why? There must be something we can do about that as well.
Well, there is just people getting together, voting these people out, and also having recalls and get them out of office. But it takes numbers to do that. And these parties, especially the Democrats, are aware of what all it takes to get rid of this stuff, and that's why they keep delaying and not doing their job and so forth and so on. My voice is going away like it does on the air sometimes, so I'm going to have to beg off here and let you carry on.
Well, you made me think of something, though, when you're talking about some of this. And one thing I'd like to see in California is that breakup of the state of Jefferson or something like that.
Yes.
Because the big cities and apparently the people there are really lacking understanding of what the rural neighborhoods are and the farming industry is. And how
yeah, well, that's the same thing as what's on the East Coast too. You got the same identical situation, and the good people are caught in the middle.
Because yes, I've looked at the state of Jefferson. I mean, I don't know necessarily all the legalities about it, but it would be a great thing to put San Francisco and Los Angeles in their own state.
Yes.
And the rest of us in something else. Because they walk on us. They have used us for a lot of things. Well, I hear some music there.
Good.
This is Personalities in the News. This is Steve Hempling. We have a break coming up. We're talking about the Constitution, bullet train, impeachment, whatever you want to talk about. You can also call in 442-1680, Talk Radio 1680, KGED. Stay tuned for more after this break.
As Aaron Rodgers and the Packers look to claim the division crown before heading to the playoffs. Join us on Monday Night Football from Westwood One.
Free Enterprise Society exists to educate Americans about the importance of the U.S. Constitution. This is the formula, if you will, that made this country the greatest country the world has ever seen. We are not supposed to be like the rest of the world. You can get more information at my website. We're also funded by people like you. We have a membership. We can help you with some IRS problems. We also need donations and benefactors to continue this work. So if you want to abolish the income tax, check us out. If you have questions, feel free to contact me. But anyway, thanks for listening.
This is Dennis Prager, and you know about my love for the people and the country of Israel. I have an acquaintance in the Central Valley who may well rival me in his love and commitment to Israel, while his more than 80 times in the land well outnumbers the number of my own visits. I'm speaking about retired Marine Corps Colonel John Somerville. John leads groups to Israel on a regular basis, and they are not just run-of-the-mill trips. They are certainly biblically based, but John makes sure you meet with and learn from Israeli soldiers, ambassadors, all sorts of Jews, and just plain Israeli citizens.
Thank you, Dennis. We are going back to Israel. It's springtime in Jerusalem, the best time to be there. The 24th of March to the 5th of April. It's springtime in Jerusalem. You're just going to love it.
Call him at 559-877-2882 for the finest in travel and learning in Israel. 559-877-2882 for the finest in travel and learning in Israel.
Welcome back with the Personalities in the News. I'm Steve Heffling. We try to talk about things that affect your liberty and your freedom on this program. We're talking about the impeachment. We're talking about the U.S. Constitution, California Constitution somewhat, Governor Newsom, bullet train, and you name it. We can talk about any of that. But we've got some more comments on Facebook. California should focus here on the homeless people. You know, Governor Newsom's spending a lot of money on the homeless people, but that doesn't really solve the problem. And I just heard just yesterday or today that the homeless level in the last 12 months went up 16% in California. That is pathetic. But not the other states. It's just California. In fact, the national average went up apparently 3%, but that's solely due to California, according to the report. I mean, people are coming from Canada, outside of the country to get here to California. Why? I think because they get so many benefits. It's partly the weather. I mean, if you're up in Canada, you're going to be under 10 foot of snow. I guess that'd be a bad place to be homeless. Same with New York. But there's one county board of supervisors here, Steve Brandow, who has some good ideas on that. I don't know how they're proceeding on that. Maybe we'll have him on the program on that subject there. That would be good, because the homelessness isn't as bad here in Fresno as it is in Southern California, but it's changing. It's changing everywhere. Even people up in the mountains are having problems with that, which is pretty amazing. Back to Randall's. One of Randall's comments on the big government, small government. We can't even get rid of things. President Reagan went in with the idea of getting rid of the Department of Education, getting rid of the income tax, and doing some other things. And he found he couldn't do it, even though the president has some power in creating a cabinet position and they're under his control. He can't get rid of them. And Trump wants to get rid of some of these departments. And this is the bureaucracy that I talked about earlier. The Department of Education, the Department of whatever it is, these people are here all the time. They're there for 30, 40 years. And a lot of times you can see that, they do things their way. A new president, a new administration comes in, and they're supposed to follow his lead completely. And we can track several instances where that doesn't happen, not just under Trump, under any president. They do things their way. And that's called a bureaucracy, is running things. Even a new congressman or junior congressman or senator coming in there, it's a new place, or they don't know what to do. They don't know the ropes, and they have these assistants come in and who've been there helping other congressmen and senators, showing them the ropes, and encourage them. I think they have some control over how they vote and how they think because of that. All right. We're going to go back to the Constitution then a little bit. Jury rights are very important. And, I've seen there's a TV show, I don't want to mention the name of it, talking about jury science and how they pick juries and how, to me, that and when you have a trial, they pick jury members by voir dire, they call them, is questioning them. And the purpose of questioning them is not to get a fair jury or an unbiased jury, in my opinion. It is to stack the jury. That's all it's for. You're supposed to have a jury of your peers. So let's talk about that. A jury of your peers today means that you can't ever have met that person for the most part. And you can't have family members. Even if they're, second cousins twice removed, which is barely a family member, you can't have them on there, on the jury. You can't have neighbors on there. You can't have coworkers on there. These are all bad things under today's standard. But the founders in the beginning, when they talked about jury of your peers, they talked about people that you did know. If you're going to be committed a crime and maybe face jail, they wanted you to have a fair trial. And you're going to get it from people that you know, your neighbors, your coworkers, people that know you, know your character, are going to give you every benefit of the doubt. That's what the founders believe. And they also believe something else very important that is lost today. The founders really believed that it would be better, and I agree with this, it would be better that 10 guilty people go free than one innocent person go into jail or prison. A lot of people are shocked by that. But if you don't honor the jury system as the founders intended, you start putting more and more innocent people in jail. We see that all the time in the news with the new DNA and different things that they have now. They're finding several people that have been in prison most of their life and didn't do anything. So if we handle the jury system properly, even today, we would have less problems. We'd have less convictions because more juries would be acquitting people. If you get charged with anything, whether it's even if you did it, if your neighbors and coworkers will convict you and send you to jail, then that's beyond a reasonable doubt. They're going to they're going to give you every benefit of the doubt. But 12 strangers in that jury box do not do that. One of the things we like to deal with is the Internal Revenue Service, sometimes in trials, or the Franchise Tax Board. And one of the things they'll do to us there in the court is the state or the federal government is if the person makes maybe, I don't know, $75,000 or $90,000, they'll try to put 12 jury members there that make $25,000. And you already have a class difference. I mean, not only do you not know the person, but they're unhappy. You're supposed to be innocent until proven guilty, but the way these things are directed, just like they're doing with Trump, with the Me Too movement and everything else that I see today, is you're guilty unless you prove yourself innocent. That's communism, ladies and gentlemen, and it will not work. It is a terrible system. Terrible system. When you're innocent until proven guilty, it is such a great thing. To have an accusation come, regardless of what it is, 30 or 40 years old, with no witnesses, no evidence of any sort, and all the media, a lot of the media sits there and say, well, the accusation is good enough. It is not good enough. It's never going to be good enough. That's ridiculous. There have been chief executive officers of companies that resigned from their position because of accusations that cannot be proven, and the person making the accusation should be the one in handcuffs, in my opinion. You cannot do that. You can't wait 40 years. So the justice system was meant to protect the innocent, but yet many people come out of school, come out of the universities, believing the Fifth Amendment and the rights that we have are there to protect the guilty. That is absolutely not true. And although, many of you may not even know this, but if know anyone in prison that was innocent, that could be you, or it could be someone you know. Because the worse this gets, the more people will be in jail that don't belong there. And that's when our law starts to break down. I think the reason this country is the best country in the world is because of our legal system. So Washington now, with the corruption they see up there, if they don't take care of it, they're going to lose all credibility. And that's going to be not good for any of the states or our legal system. So heads have to roll. Well, been a good program. We got some good comments there on Facebook as well. Got some good calls. We're getting close to the end of the program. But I do want to encourage you to read the Constitution, even the California Constitution. You can get those on the websites or on your phones. This is the formula that people, you watch TV and all these people are talking about the Constitution. Even I'm talking about it some. But, you should take it and read it yourself. This is it will open your eyes to a lot of things if you haven't done that. If you went to school, you have not learned the Constitution. So they talk about it in the school systems today, but they actually don't get to read it. And I think that's a problem. Because you don't know what we're, when the people talk about it, you just, the Constitution is something you don't know anything about, but these people do that you're listening to, so they must be right. Especially when every network you watch says the same thing almost. But if you look at it, you'll see that it doesn't. And a lot of times it doesn't say anything about that. So, well, we're at the end of the program. Looks like. So if you like this program, let me know. And if you have any formats or topics you'd like to hear, let us know also. If you'd like to bring in somebody, or if you have some guests that you think would be good on the program, let us know. But thank you all for listening. And thank Talk Radio 1680 for having me on. That's a great program. And there aren't many programs like this, so I'm glad you're all here. Okay.